Title: Crimson Moon and the Seal of the Key. Under a sky filled with endless stars, a crimson moon hung low, casting its eerie glow over the vast, forgotten forest. It was a night unlike any other, a night when the veil between realms grew thin. The wind whispered ancient secrets as if beckoning someone to listen closely. In the heart of the forest, where the shadows danced like specters, stood a stone archway weathered, cracked, yet still powerful. The symbol of a key engraved upon its surface glimmered faintly in the moonlight. The seal of the key. Few knew of its existence, and even fewer had heard the tales of the force it could unleash. As the moon climbed higher, the winds began to stir. An old figure, cloaked in tattered robes, approached the archway. His steps were heavy, the weight of centuries upon his shoulders. His name was Alistair, the last of a forgotten order. He had spent his life searching for the key that could break the seal and awaken the power locked away beneath the earth. Long ago, before the rise of kingdoms and empires, the world was governed by forces beyond mortal understanding. Magic flowed freely, and with it came unimaginable power. But with great power came great destruction. The story told of a mighty sorcerer who, in his greed, sought to harness the raw energy of the universe. His name was Iter, and he believed that with the power of the world at his command, he could reshape reality itself. But the gods, seeing the danger Iter posed, sealed away his magic with the creation of the seal of the key. They bound it beneath the earth, guarded by the moon, and placed the key to its release in the hands of the chosen one, someone pure of heart, yet strong enough to bear the weight of such power. The sorcerer's ambition had failed, but his legend lived on, and the seal remained, waiting for the one who could unlock its secrets. Alistair had grown up hearing the old tales, the legends passed down through generations. His heart longed for the adventure, the chance to uncover the truth behind the seal. And so, he had traveled for years, crossing mountains and deserts, diving into ancient ruins, deciphering forgotten texts, and facing dangers that would have broken any ordinary man. Now, standing before the archway, the air thick with anticipation, Alistair could feel the weight of the moment. The seal of the key was close. He had only one choice to open it, or leave it forever sealed, hidden from the world. As Alistair placed his hand upon the cold stone, the world seemed to hold its breath. The crimson moon above flickered like a heartbeat. Then, a soft hum vibrated through the air, and the symbol of the key began to glow brighter. The forest around him grew still. The wind stopped. Even the stars seemed to pause, watching the ancient ritual unfold. Alistair stepped back as the archway split open, revealing a stone pedestal with a single, glowing key resting upon it. The key shimmered with an inner fire, and its light seemed to beckon him, calling him to take it. The moment he touched the key, a powerful surge of energy coursed through his body. Memories of the past flooded his mind, visions of battles fought, empires lost, and a world on the brink of collapse. With the key in hand, Alistair could feel the power of Iter's magic stirring deep beneath the earth. He could hear the whispers of ancient voices, urging him to unlock the seal. It was a temptation unlike any other power, unimaginable and boundless, just within reach. But Alistair hesitated. He had heard the stories of those who sought the key before him, those who had fallen prey to the allure of the power it promised. They had sought to control it, to use it for their own purposes. And in the end, they had all been consumed by it. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, centering himself. The choice was his. Would he be the one to wield the power, or would he be the one to seal it forever? The winds began to swirl again, the whispers growing louder. "You are the chosen one," they said. "Unlock the seal. Set us free." But Alistair knew better. He had spent his life seeking knowledge, not power. He had seen what happened to those who sought dominion over the world. He would not be the next to fall. Alistair took a deep breath and raised the key high. As he did, the moonlight intensified, its crimson glow bathing the forest in an otherworldly light. He spoke the words that had been passed down through the ages, the ancient incantation that would seal the power forever. The air vibrated with the magic, and the ground beneath him trembled. The seal of the key began to glow with an even brighter intensity, the power contained within it struggling to break free. But Alistair stood firm. "I will not release you," he whispered, his voice steady, but filled with sorrow. "Not today." The light of the moon dimmed, and the power within the seal slowly subsided. The archway closed, and the key vanished, its glow fading into nothingness. The forest fell silent once again, as if acknowledging his decision. Alistair stood alone beneath the crimson moon, the weight of his choice settling over him. He had not unlocked the power, but in a way, he had freed it. The choice to release the seal was not one for a single man to make. It was a choice for the world, one that could change the course of history. And so, Alistair turned away from the archway, the seal still intact. He had made his decision, and with it, a new chapter in his journey began. The crimson moon remained high in the sky, its glow fading slowly as the night stretched on. The world, for now, was safe. But in the silence, one could still hear the faintest whisper, "The key has been chosen." The moon hung heavy in the sky, and Alistair's journey seemed to have reached an impasse. Though the seal of the key was closed once more, something deep within him stirred a restless feeling that would not subside. The power locked away beneath the earth still called to him, and though he had chosen to leave it sealed, the consequences of that choice were far from clear. As he made his way back through the ancient forest, the stillness around him felt unnatural. It was as if the very earth was holding its breath. The wind, once again, began to pick up, rustling the leaves with whispers of an unknown future. Alistair paused at the edge of a quiet river, its waters reflecting the dim light of the remaining crimson moon. He knelt by the water's edge, his fingers brushing the cool surface as his mind raced. Had he made the right decision? Had he truly sealed away the power, or had he simply postponed the inevitable? The legend spoke of a time when the seal would break on its own, when the one who held the key would be called upon again, but this time with no choice but to release the power. Perhaps this was not the end, Alistair muttered to himself. Perhaps this was only the beginning. The air grew heavier, and the river, once calm, began to churn. A strange light flickered in the distance, far across the water. It wasn't the moon, nor any natural source. It was something else, something far older, far darker. As the light grew stronger, Alistair's heart began to race. He knew, deep down, that the time had come. The key, the seal, and the stories of Atharth, ancient sorcerer, had never truly been erased. They had only been dormant, waiting for the right moment to resurface. The light at the far end of the river began to take shape. It coalesced into a figure tall, imposing, and cloaked in shadow. As the figure drew closer, Alistair felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. This was no ordinary being. This was Iter, or what remained of him. A voice, cold as ice, echoed from the figure. "So, you have chosen to defy me. But you cannot escape your fate, Alistair. The seal may have been closed for now, but it is not forever." Alistair stood, his breath steady despite the terror welling inside him. "You are not Iter. You are a shadow of what once was." The figure laughed softly, a sound that sent shivers down Alistair's spine. "A shadow, yes. But even shadows have power. Even shadows can corrupt." Alistair stepped back, his hand reaching instinctively for the key at his side, but it was gone, vanished, as if it had never existed. The figure moved closer, and the air around them began to distort. The ground beneath Alistair's feet trembled, and the water of the river surged upward, swirling into a vortex. You see, Alistair, the figure continued, the seal was never meant to be permanent. It was only meant to delay the inevitable. The key is lost, yes, but the seal is already weakening. The time has come for the power to return to the world. The earth beneath Alistair cracked open, and from the depths, a brilliant, crimson light began to emerge. It was the power of Iter, the magic that had been bound for so long, and it was waking. Alistair felt a rush of energy that nearly overwhelmed him. The force of the power threatened to consume him, to unravel his very being. Yet, he could not let it take him. He had to stop it. With every ounce of strength, Alistair summoned the will to resist. I will not let this happen. I will not be a part of this destruction. He closed his eyes, focusing on the very core of his being, the part of him that sought to protect, to preserve, to heal. He could feel the ancient magic stirring, but he refused to let it control him. The key might be lost, but the strength within him was not. The crimson light continued to rise, but now, Alistair's will was stronger. He could feel the magic of the earth, of the forest, and of the moon itself urging him on. The power of the seal was still within his reach, and he could still close it once more. With a final, desperate push, Alistair reached into the depths of his soul, drawing on the very essence of his being. He spoke the words that would forever bind the magic. They were not the incantation of the old order, but his own testament to his strength, to his resistance. As the words left his lips, the world seemed to pause. The crimson light faltered, the earth cracked again, and the shadows of Iter's form began to fade. I will never be your pawn, Alistair declared, his voice ringing out with finality. With that, the ground settled, and the power beneath the earth was sealed once more. The crimson moon, now dimming, cast a soft, peaceful glow over the forest. The vortex closed, and the figure of Iter was gone, lost to the ether once more. Alistair stood alone by the river, breathless and weary, his heart heavy with the weight of the choices he had made. He had stopped the awakening of the seal, but the power of Iter, though dormant for now, was never truly gone. The night was still, and the world seemed to hold its breath once more. But Alistair knew that his journey was far from over. The key may have been lost, but the stories of the seal, of the crimson moon, and of Iter's power would continue to haunt the world, lingering in the shadows. And perhaps, one day, the seal would awaken again. But for now, Alistair turned away, his footsteps quiet in the stillness. His heart carried the burden of the past, and the weight of the future. The journey was not yet finished. Alistair walked away from the river, his thoughts clouded by the events of the night. The forest around him, though quiet, seemed to hum with energy. It was as though the land itself had witnessed his struggle and now held its breath, waiting for the consequences of his choices to unfold. The moon, once crimson, had now faded to a soft silver, casting a gentle light over the path ahead. Alistair's steps were slow, measured, as though he were walking not just through the forest but through time itself. Every part of him, Achetti's body, his spirit, even his soul. He had carried the weight of destiny for so long, and now, even though he had sealed away the power, the burden of what might come next lingered. As he moved deeper into the forest, he noticed a figure standing near the edge of the trees, watching him. This figure was tall and cloaked in a flowing robe of shimmering white, its presence both calm and mysterious. Alistair froze, his instincts alert. "Who are you?" he called out, his voice hoarse. The figure did not respond immediately. Instead, it stepped forward, its movements smooth and graceful, as if gliding over the earth. When it finally spoke, its voice was soft but resonant, carrying an ancient wisdom that seemed to echo from the past. I am but a watcher, Alistair. A keeper of the balance, the figure said, its face hidden beneath the hood of its cloak. I have seen your struggles, your choices. You have sealed the power for now, but the world is never still. The threads of fate are always in motion. Alistair's heart skipped a beat. Are you a god? The figure shook its head slowly. No, I am neither god nor demon, but I have walked the realms for longer than you can imagine. I see the choices made by mortals and the consequences of those choices. And I see the path before you is not yet clear. Alistair's brow furrowed. What do you mean? The seal is closed. Eider's power is sealed. I've done what needed to be done. You may have sealed the magic for now, the figure said softly, but the world changes. New forces rise, and old wounds never heal entirely. The power that Eider sought to control was not just his alone. It is a part of the very fabric of the world, woven into the lands, the sky, and the hearts of all living things. Alistair's mind raced. Are you telling me that I can never escape this? That the seal will break again? The figure nodded slowly. It will break, yes. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow. But the seal cannot hold forever. It was never meant to. The key you held, the power you seal at it is part of a greater cycle, one that spans beyond time. Alistair's pulse quickened. What does that mean? What should I do now? The figure lowered its hood, revealing an ageless face, neither young nor old, with eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the cosmos itself. You must choose, Alistair. There are many paths before you, but only one leads to true peace. Will you continue to fight, sealing away the power each time it rises? Or will you seek to understand it, learn to wield it, and guard it so that it may never be used for destruction again? Alistair took a step back, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. To fight, to keep sealing the power, seemed like the safest path. But the Watcher's words were powerful. What if there was another way? What if he could learn to master the magic and ensure it would never again threaten the world? For a long time, he stood in silence, the weight of the world pressing against his chest. Finally, he spoke. I can't keep running from this. I've already made my choices, but I know now that there is more to this story. I need to understand. I need to know what is truly at stake. The figure nodded, its eyes filled with quiet approval. Your heart is wise, Alistair. The journey you must undertake will not be easy, but it will be yours to shape. The key may be lost, but the path is still before you. And it is a path that will take you far beyond the forest, beyond the moon, and into the very heart of the power you sought to contain. Alistair stood tall, feeling a renewed sense of purpose coursing through him. He no longer saw the forest as a place of mere danger and mystery, but as the beginning of something much greater. The moonlight, now pale and steady, bathed the landscape in its calm glow, as if acknowledging his decision. Then I will find the answers, Alistair said, his voice firm. I will learn what I must, and when the seal breaks again, I will be ready. The figure stepped back into the shadows of the trees, its form fading into the night as silently as it had appeared. But before it vanished completely, it spoke once more. Remember, Alistair, the power you seek to understand is not merely a tool to be used. It is a force, a living thing, and it will test you. When the time comes, you must be prepared to face not only the magic itself but the darkness within you. And with that, the Watcher was gone, leaving Alistair alone once more under the pale light of the moon. The journey ahead of Alistair was uncertain, filled with both promise and danger. But he knew that he could no longer hide from the power that had shaped his destiny. He had seen the consequences of running, and now he would seek the truth, no matter where it led him. As dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight began to break through the trees, bathing the forest in a warm, golden light. Alistair stood still, breathing in the fresh morning air. There was no turning back now. His journey had just begun. And in the distance, the faintest glimmer of a new path appeared, a path that would lead him into the heart of the world's greatest mysteries. As Alistair ventured deeper into the heart of the world, the path before him was not one of simple steps, but rather a winding road filled with trials, doubts, and revelations. The forest gave way to open fields, vast and endless. Every step he took was guided by an unseen force, a whisper in his ear that urged him forward, urging him to understand the power that he had once sealed away. The landscape grew stranger, the sky darker, as if the very fabric of reality was bending to something old, something primal. Alistair could feel it, the presence of an ancient magic. A feeling deep within his chest told him that the key was not truly lost, only hidden, dormant, waiting for the right moment to resurface. And that moment was drawing near. One day, as he trekked through a valley shrouded in mist, Alistair found a strange stone structure, ancient and weathered. It stood alone in the middle of the valley, a monolith carved with symbols that seemed to shift before his very eyes. The closer he drew to the structure, the more intense the pull he felt. This was no ordinary ruin. He stepped forward, his breath heavy, heart racing, as though something inside him recognized this place. The symbols on the stone seemed to call to him. There was no mistaking it now. This was where it all began. Without thinking, Alistair raised his hand toward the stone. As soon as his fingers brushed against the surface, the stone began to glow with a soft, inner light. The symbols shifted rapidly, rearranging themselves into an intricate pattern. His hand trembled as he felt the warmth of the stone seep into his skin, filling him with a power he had not felt in years. It was the key, alive, resonating with the very core of his being. Suddenly, a voice echoed through his mind, one he had not heard in what felt like an eternity. Alistair. It was the voice of the Watcher. I have been waiting for you. Alistair's eyes widened as he recognized the familiar tone. I thought you were gone. I never left, the voice replied, gentle yet filled with knowing. This place, this structure, it is a conduit. The key is bound to it, and you are bound to the key. The power you sought to seal is woven into your fate, into the fabric of this world. It was never meant to be hidden away. Alistair's heart beat faster. So, it was always destined to come back? Always, the voice said. But the choice is still yours. Will you learn to wield it, Alistair? Will you choose to guide it, or will you let it consume you as it did Iter? Alistair closed his eyes, feeling the power of the key surge within him. The ancient magic coursed through his veins, filling him with a sense of both wonder and terror. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and dangerous all at once. I will not let it consume me, Alistair whispered, his voice steady. I will choose to understand it. As soon as the words left Alistair's lips, the ground beneath him trembled. The stone monolith began to crack, the symbols glowing brighter as the power of the key reached its peak. The air around him grew heavy, thick with the magic that had been dormant for so long. A storm began to form above, the sky darkening as swirling clouds gathered, crackling with electricity. Alistair felt the power within him intensify, urging him to step forward. But he hesitated. This was the trial he had been warned about, the trial of mastery. To understand the power of the key, he would have to face its true nature, and its true cost. A voice rang out, not in his mind, but in the air itself. You seek to master me, mortal? Then prove your worth. Only by surviving the trial will you gain control. Fail, and you will be consumed by the very power you seek to wield. The storm above him raged, and from the center of the monolith, a beam of light shot into the sky, sending a shockwave that knocked Alistair to his knees. The ground split open, and from the cracks, shadows began to rise, creatures of pure darkness, formed from the very essence of the key's untamed magic. Alistair scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. He reached within himself, drawing on the power of the key, trying to control it, to bend it to his will. But it was wild, unpredictable. The darkness lashed out at him, clawing at his soul, seeking to drag him into oblivion. "You are not ready," the voice boomed again. "You must first face the darkness within yourself." Alistair closed his eyes, focusing on the swirling chaos around him. He knew the truth of the voice's words. The creatures of darkness were not just from the key, they were a reflection of the darkness in his own heart. The fear, the doubt, and the anger that he had buried for so long. With a cry of determination, Alistair reached deep into his own soul, confronting the darkness inside him. The shadows writhed, but he held firm, refusing to let them consume him. He reached out to the power within, this time not to control it, but to understand it, to let it flow through him, to merge with him, not as a tool to be wielded, but as a force to be respected. The storm above him began to subside, the shadows fading into nothingness. The light from the monolith dimmed, and the earth beneath him settled. Alistair stood, breathing heavily, his body and mind exhausted, but filled with a sense of peace that he had never known before. The voice spoke once more, softer this time. "You have passed the trial, Alistair. You have proven yourself worthy to wield the power of the key. But remember this, mortal, the magic is not yours to control. It is a part of the world, a part of everything. You must guard it, protect it, and use it wisely." Alistair nodded slowly, his heart filled with both pride and humility. "I will not let it consume me. I will be the guardian it needs." The monolith's glow faded completely, and the storm above cleared, revealing the first rays of the dawn sun. The valley was calm once more, and Alistair knew that his journey was far from over. The world would continue to change, and the power of the key would be tested again. But for now, he had made his choice. He was no longer just a seeker of answers, he was the keeper of the key, bound to the ancient magic, and tasked with guiding it into the future. And so, the true journey began. Alistair stood in the calm after the storm, the weight of the key within him both a comfort and a constant reminder of the responsibility he now bore. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm, golden light across the valley. Yet despite the beauty surrounding him, a sense of unease lingered in his heart. The trial had been hard, but Alistair knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The key was powerful, its magic ancient and wild, but it was not something to be wielded recklessly. He had felt its fury, its raw potential, like a fire that could either warm a home or burn it to the ground. He was its keeper now, not its master. As he turned away from the monolith, the sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. He whirled around, hand instinctively reaching for the sword at his side, but he found nothing but a lone figure approaching from the mist. It was the same figure from before, the one who had watched him from the shadows, the watcher who had spoken to him when he first sealed the key away. This time, the figure was not cloaked in mystery but stood tall and clear in the daylight, its eyes calm but knowing. "You have done well, Alistair," the figure said, its voice soft yet carrying a deep resonance. "You have proven your worth, but the burden you carry is not one to be taken lightly." Alistair nodded, trying to steady his breath. "I know. I've already felt the darkness within. The power of the key is not to be trifled with. I will not be its servant. But I'm not sure I'm ready to be its keeper either." The figure smiled, a gentle but knowing expression. "The key does not care if you are ready or not. It will test you, Alistair, every day, until the day you finally understand what it truly is." You must learn not just to wield its power, but to listen to it, to live with it, and in time, to guide others who will come after you. Others? Alistair repeated. You mean there will be more who seek the key? Yes, the figure said, its tone growing more somber. There are always those who seek the power the key holds. And they will come for it either to use it for their own ends or to try to destroy it, believing that it is too dangerous to exist. But the true danger is not in the key itself. It lies in how those who wield it choose to use it. Alistair's gaze hardened, a new resolve taking root. Then I will protect it, with everything I have. I won't let the same mistake happen again. The figure nodded, as if pleased. You must remember, Alistair, that there are many paths to power. Some seek it for control, others for knowledge. But there are some who seek it for destruction. And they will be your greatest challenge. As days passed, Alistair traveled further, following the whispers of the key's ancient magic. He sought knowledge, finding ruins, sacred places, and forgotten texts that revealed glimpses into the deep past of the key and the world it inhabited. Yet with each discovery, he grew more aware of the dangers that lay in wait. One evening, as he sat by the edge of a tranquil lake, contemplating the weight of his role, the wind began to pick up. The once calm surface of the water began to ripple, and in the distance, a dark shadow loomed on the horizon, slowly creeping closer. Alistair's senses sharpened. He knew what this was. A figure appeared on the shore, tall and clad in armor that seemed to absorb the fading light of the day. His face was hidden beneath a dark hood, but the aura surrounding him was unmistakable, the presence of one who sought the key for destruction. You've come for the key, Alistair said, rising to his feet, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of his sword. The figure did not respond immediately but took a slow, deliberate step forward. You are mistaken, Alistair, the voice was cold and low, as if it came from the depths of a shadowed abyss. I do not come for the key itself, but for its power. And you, foolish mortal, are in the way. Alistair's grip tightened on his sword. I will not let you take it. This key is a force for balance, not for destruction. The figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed across the lake. Balance? You speak of balance, yet you think you can control the power of the ancient world. You are just a keeper. Nothing more. You are wrong, Alistair said, his voice steady. I am its guardian, and I will stop you. The figure raised a hand, and dark tendrils of magic surged from the earth, coiling around Alistair's legs, pulling him toward the shadowy figure. But Alistair did not panic. Instead, he focused on the key within him, pulse of ancient magic that flowed through his veins. He summoned the energy, feeling its power surge within him. The tendrils of darkness recoiled as he pushed the magic outward, forming a shield of light that deflected the attack. You will have to do better than that, Alistair said, his heart racing. The dark figure's eyes glowed with malice, but he did not retreat. Instead, he advanced, a dark aura surrounding him. The battle between Alistair and the shadowy figure raged for what seemed like hours. The air was thick with the clash of magic, the power of the key and the dark sorcerer's magic colliding in flashes of light and shadow. Alistair pushed himself to the limits, drawing on the power of the key. But always keeping in mind the words of the Watcher, the key is not a weapon to be wielded. It is a force to be understood. With a final surge of energy, Alistair called upon the light within him, pushing back the darkness that surrounded the sorcerer. The light enveloped the figure, driving him back with an almost blinding intensity. No, the sorcerer hissed, his form beginning to disintegrate in the light. You cannot keep it from me. I will return. The darkness will never be sealed away. The sorcerer's form shattered into shadow and dissipated into the air, leaving behind only the echoes of his threat. Alistair stood alone, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his body exhausted from the battle. But he knew that this was only the beginning. The first of many challenges had passed, but there would be more to come. And this time, he would be ready. Days passed, and Alistair's journey continued, the echoes of the battle still fresh in his mind. The shadowy sorcerer had vanished, but his threat lingered. Alistair knew that this encounter was only the first of many. The darkness that sought the key would not be easily deterred. One night, Alistair reached the heart of the ancient forest, where the trees whispered ancient secrets, and the air was thick with magic. Here, he hoped to find more answers about the key's origin and its true purpose. As he walked deeper into the forest, the wind began to howl, a strange force stirring in the air. The trees began to bend, as if reacting to something unseen. Alistair could feel an ominous presence, something ancient and powerful. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a great fissure appeared before him, splitting the earth wide open. From within, a voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the forest. The key must be returned. Alistair's heart skipped a beat. He recognized the voice. It was the same voice that had spoken to him from the darkness, the voice of the one who had warned him of the key's dangers. "I cannot return it," Alistair said, his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. "It is my burden now." "You are mistaken," the voice boomed. "The key is not yours to bear. You were chosen only to guard it for a time. The time is now up. Return the key to its resting place." Alistair shook his head. "I cannot do that. The darkness will come for it again, and the world will fall into chaos. I will protect it with my life." The ground beneath him rumbled again, and from the fissure, a figure emerged, a towering being of darkness, its form shifting like smoke. It was the same force that had threatened him before, but now it was no longer just an opponent. It was a force of nature itself, a manifestation of the very power that sought the key. "Foolish mortal," the being hissed. "The key's power is not for you to understand. It was never meant to be controlled by a human. You will fail, as all who came before you have." Alistair's grip on the key tightened. "I will not fail. I am the guardian of the key, and I will protect it for as long as I live." The being's laughter was like thunder, reverberating through the trees. "Then prepare for the greatest test of your life." With a single wave of its hand, the dark being summoned a storm unlike any Alistair had ever seen. The sky darkened, and the winds howled with fury. The earth beneath him cracked and shifted, sending great waves of dirt and stone into the air. Lightning struck with terrifying precision, and the very air seemed to crackle with raw, untamed energy. Alistair fought to remain grounded, his senses overwhelmed by the power of the storm. The key pulsed within him, its magic urging him to fight back, but he knew that this was no ordinary battle. This was a trial, a test of everything he had learned since taking the key into his care. The dark being moved with unnatural speed, striking from all sides with tendrils of shadow. Alistair's sword clashed against the darkness, but it felt as if his blows barely made a dent in the creature's form. The storm grew fiercer, the very elements seemingly conspiring against him. He could feel his strength waning, the exhaustion from the previous battles catching up with him. But then, something inside him clicked. The key was not just a weapon to be wielded, it was a part of him, a reflection of his own will. It was not about controlling its power, it was about understanding it. Alistair closed his eyes, breathing deeply. He focused not on the storm around him but on the pulse of the key within his heart. He felt its ancient energy, the balance it represented, the connection between the light and the dark, the earth and the sky. He raised the key high, calling upon the forces within him. The storm raged even harder, but Alistair did not flinch. Instead, he became one with the key, allowing its power to flow through him not as a master, but as a conduit. Suddenly, the storm shifted. The winds began to die down, the earth settled, and the dark being's form flickered in and out of existence. Alistair stepped forward, his body glowing with the light of the key, his eyes now filled with an understanding he had not known before. "You cannot defeat me with force," he said, his voice steady and calm. "You are but a shadow, and I am the keeper of balance. You will not have the key." The dark being hissed, its form beginning to disintegrate under the power of Alistair's conviction. "You are nothing but a fool," it spat, its voice fading. "The darkness will return. There is no escape." And with that, the being collapsed into a swirling mass of shadows, dissipating into the air like smoke on the wind. The storm calmed, and the forest fell silent once more. Alistair stood alone, his breath heavy, but his heart steady. He had passed the trial, not through strength or violence, but through understanding. The key was not his to control, it was his to protect, and to guide. The balance between light and dark, creation and destruction, was delicate, and it was his duty to ensure that it remained intact. As the days passed, Alistair continued his journey, ever vigilant. He knew that the darkness would always seek the key, and that there would always be those who would try to claim its power. But he had learned a valuable lesson: that key was not an object to be possessed. It was a force that could only be understood through humility, patience, and respect. The world would test him again, and again, but Alistair would be ready. He was no longer just the keeper of the key, he was its guardian, its protector. And he would stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. Alistair's travels led him to a forgotten land, a place lost in the annals of time. The air was thick with a strange quiet, and the once vibrant forests had turned to ruins, their ancient trunks twisted by forces long since past. Here, the very earth seemed to hum with a strange energy, an energy that seemed to resonate with the key itself. As he walked deeper into the land, he began to feel like a pull, an invisible thread drawing him forward. His heart beat faster with each step, a growing sense of urgency filling him. The key thrummed at his side, responding to the ancient magic that lingered in this forsaken place. Eventually, Alistair reached the center of the ruins, where a crumbling temple stood. It was older than anything he had ever seen, the stone covered in intricate carvings that seemed to tell the story of an ancient civilization. The walls were etched with symbols, ones that Alistair did not understand, but somehow, he knew they were important. The key reacted to them, its magic pulsing in time with the markings. At the center of the temple stood a massive stone altar, its surface covered in dust and age. But as Alistair stepped closer, the stone seemed to shift, the carvings lighting up with an ethereal glow. A voice echoed in the air, soft and distant, yet clear in its message. "You have come, Alistair. The time is near." Alistair paused, his heart pounding in his chest. The voice felt ancient, as though it had been waiting for him for centuries. "Who are you?" Alistair asked, his voice barely more than a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the silence that surrounded him. "The voice of those who came before you," it replied. "We are the ones who created the key. And we are the ones who left it behind." The words sent a chill down Alistair's spine. "You created the key?" "Yes," the voice confirmed. "We were once its guardians, but we failed. The key was too powerful. In the end, it destroyed us, as it will destroy you if you do not learn its true purpose." Alistair stepped closer to the altar, his hands trembling as he reached out, the key's energy calling to him. "I will not fail," he said firmly, though doubt lingered in his heart. "I will protect it," the voice responded, its tone now heavy with sorrow. "You are not its protector, Alistair. You are its prisoner. The key was never meant to be controlled, only safeguarded. If you continue on this path, you will become a part of the darkness you seek to fight. Alistair recoiled, the weight of the words sinking in. The voice spoke of a truth he had not yet fully understood. The key was more than just an object, it was a force that could not be tamed. And yet, here he was, bound to it, unable to escape. Alistair's heart was torn as he stood before the altar. The voice had given him an unimaginable truth: he was not the key's guardian, but rather its captive. The darkness that he fought against was not just external, it was also within him, fed by his bond to the key. His mind raced with the implications of what the voice had said. What was the true purpose of the key? If it could destroy those who guarded it, could he ever truly hope to protect it? Was his fate sealed? Suddenly, the air around him shifted. The wind stirred, and the ground beneath his feet trembled once more. The presence of the dark being, the one that had threatened him before, reappeared. But this time, it was different. It was no longer a mere shadow, but a manifestation of pure malevolence, its form more powerful and terrifying than before. "You have come too far, Alistair," the dark being growled. "The key belongs to me. You will give it to me, or I will take it from you." Alistair stood tall, holding the key close to his chest. "I will never give it to you. You cannot fight fate," the being hissed, its voice like the screech of metal on stone. "The key is my birthright. You are nothing but a fool who does not understand the power it holds." The dark being raised its hand, and Alistair felt the world around him grow cold. The sky darkened, and the winds howled with rage. The key's power surged within him, but this time, Alistair did not rely on it alone. He focused on the lessons he had learned, understanding the key, not controlling it, listening to its energy and the balance it required. With a surge of willpower, Alistair raised the key, not as a weapon, but as a guide. The light that emanated from it clashed with the darkness, pushing it back with incredible force. The dark being screamed in fury, but it could not resist the key's power. It was a force of balance, a force of creation, and it refused to be used for destruction. The battle was fierce, but Alistair had learned from his past trials. He no longer fought with anger or desperation. He fought with clarity, understanding that the key could not be used for domination. It was a force of equilibrium, not a tool to be bent to one's will. The dark being's form began to crumble, its essence unraveling in the light of the key. With a final cry, it disintegrated into the wind, leaving only the sound of the breeze in its wake. Exhausted but triumphant, Alistair stood alone in the temple. The key's magic had subsided, its glow softening, but its presence was ever constant. He now understood its true nature. He was not meant to control it, nor was he meant to use it for his own purposes. He was its keeper, its guardian, bound to its power, but never its master. As the last of the shadows faded, Alistair realized that his journey was far from over. The key had shown him that balance was not a destination, it was a constant process, a dance between light and dark, creation and destruction. He would face more challenges, more enemies, but he would no longer fight with fear or confusion. He would fight with purpose, with understanding, and with respect for the power he had sworn to protect. The key was not his burden to bear, it was his responsibility to guide. And he would carry it, for as long as it took, to ensure that the balance of the world remained intact. As Alistair walked away from the ruins of the ancient temple, a quiet calm settled over the land. The battle was over for now, but the weight of the truth he had uncovered lingered like a shadow. The key was not a weapon to be wielded, it was a living force, a force that balanced the very fabric of existence. And he, Alistair, was its keeper. Though he had triumphed over the darkness for now, the road ahead was uncertain. The dark being had been vanquished, but its words echoed in his mind. The darkness will return. Was this battle truly the end? Or had he only delayed the inevitable? The night sky stretched out above him as he made his way back through the forest, his thoughts heavy with the responsibility now placed upon him. The world was in a delicate balance, and Alistair was the thread that held it all together. But that balance was fragile. The key was not the only force of power in the world, and those who sought it would stop at nothing to claim its power for themselves. The wind whispered through the trees, and Alistair paused, his senses alert. There was something else in the air now, a subtle shift, a presence that had not been there before. It was not dark, but it was not light either. It was something else entirely. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman cloaked in flowing white robes, her eyes glowing with an ethereal light. She was neither human nor creature, but something in between, an embodiment of the very energy that pulsed through the world. "You have done well, Alistair," she said, her voice soft yet filled with authority. "You have learned the truth of the key." Alistair tensed, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of his sword, though he did not draw it. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, her expression both gentle and sorrowful. "I am the Keeper of Light," she answered. "I have watched over the key for centuries, just as you now do." Alistair's heart skipped a beat. "Another keeper? But I thought. You thought you were alone," she finished for him. "You are not. There are many keepers, scattered across time and space, each entrusted with guarding the key. But you are different, Alistair. You are the one chosen to face the greatest trials." The weight of her words struck him like a thunderclap. "Greatest trials? What do you mean?" "The key's power is not just a force of balance," the Keeper of Light explained. "It is a force that holds the very threads of existence. Those who seek it will stop at nothing to control it, and when that happens, the world itself will begin to unravel. The darkness you have faced is only a part of the greater threat that looms on the horizon." Alistair shook his head, confusion and fear rising in him. "Then what must I do? How can I stop this?" The Keeper's eyes glowed brighter as she spoke. "The key must be returned to its resting place, but not by your hand. You must guide another, someone worthy to take the key and protect it from those who would use it for their own ends. Only by passing on the key will its power remain balanced." "But I am the key's guardian," Alistair protested. "I cannot just give it up." You must," the Keeper interrupted gently. "You are its protector, Alistair, but you are not its final keeper. You are the bridge, and bridges are meant to be crossed." Alistair stood in stunned silence, his thoughts swirling. Could he truly give up the key? It had been his burden for so long, and now, at the very moment when he understood it most, he was being told to pass it on. But who could be worthy? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How could I possibly find someone who could protect it as I have?" The Keeper of Light gave him a knowing smile. "That is a question only you can answer. But know this, the key has already chosen. The one you seek is already close." Before Alistair could ask more, the Keeper's form began to fade, her words lingering in the air like a breeze. "Your journey is not yet over, Alistair. The darkness will return, but so will the light. Trust in the balance." Alistair spent the following days in a state of restless thought, the Keeper's words echoing through his mind. His role had changed. He was no longer just the key's protector, he was the one who must pass the key on to the next guardian. But who could that be? And when would the time come for him to relinquish it? His travels brought him to a remote village on the outskirts of the kingdom. The people here lived simple lives, untouched by the wars and battles that ravaged the world. Alistair had come here to rest, to seek solace, but something in the village felt different. As he entered the village, he noticed a young woman standing by the edge of the river, gazing out at the water. She was unlike anyone Alistair had ever seen. Her eyes seemed to shine with an inner light. and there was a sense of calm around her that immediately drew him in. Without thinking, Alistair approached her. "Excuse me," he said softly. The woman turned, and when their eyes met, something deep within Alistair stirred. He felt a recognition, an inexplicable connection, as though he had known her for lifetimes. "You are the one, aren't you?" the woman said, her voice calm and knowing. Alistair froze. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "I have seen you in my dreams. The key, it has led you here. You have come to find me, haven't you?" Alistair's heart raced. Could it be? Could she be the one he had been searching for? The one who would take the key from him? "I have been waiting," she continued. "I was always meant to be your guide, to help you fulfill your destiny." The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. Alistair knew what he must do. The time had come. In the quiet of the night, under the silver glow of the moon, Alistair stood with the woman at the river's edge. She had shown him that she was indeed the one chosen by the key, the one who would protect it after he had fulfilled his role. With a deep breath, Alistair took the key from his side, feeling its warmth, its pulse, and its power. He gazed at it one last time, knowing that the world was in safe hands. His hands. With a silent prayer, he placed the key in her hands. "The world will be safe," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I trust you." The woman nodded, her eyes full of wisdom beyond her years. "I will protect it, Alistair. And I will carry the light you have passed on." As the first rays of dawn broke across the horizon, the key was no longer just an object, it was a symbol of the balance that Alistair had fought so hard to maintain. His journey had ended, but another had just begun. The days following the passing of the key were quieter than Alistair could have ever imagined. The weight of the decision hung heavily on him, but he felt a strange sense of peace. As though the river of fate had carried him to the place where he was always meant to be. Yet, peace was a fleeting thing. Alistair spent the next several weeks traveling, though his steps were lighter than before. He no longer carried the key, and with that, a sense of freedom and loss mingled in his heart. The woman the new keeper had disappeared after the moment of the key's passing. She had left no trace, as if she was never meant to stay. It was as though she was a part of the ancient prophecy, stepping into her role without hesitation. But even with the key safely in her hands, Alistair knew that peace could not last forever. The darkness had not been destroyed, it had only been held at bay. And in the silence, he could feel it gathering, lurking in the corners of the world, waiting for its moment to strike again. It wasn't long before Alistair's fears were realized. One evening, as he sat by the campfire under the canopy of stars, the world around him shifted. The air grew heavy, as though the very earth itself had caught its breath. In the distance, there was a low rumble, like thunder in the deep, but there was no storm. Alistair's instincts kicked in immediately. He stood, his hand reaching for the hilt of his sword. The peace had been too fragile, too brief. And then he saw an eerie light in the distance, not from any flame, but from an unnatural source. It pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger with each passing second. He was not alone. A figure emerged from the mist, draped in shadows, its form flickering between dimensions. The air seemed to warp around the figure, distorting reality itself. "Alistair," the figure's voice came like a whisper on the wind, chilling and familiar. "You should have known that darkness never truly leaves." Alistair's heart clenched in his chest. He knew that voice. It was the dark being, the one he had thought vanquished. The one he had fought so hard to defeat. "You," Alistair growled, his grip tightening on his sword. "I thought I ended you." The figure chuckled, a sound that sent a shiver down Alistair's spine. "You cannot kill darkness, Alistair. You can only delay it. But even in the delay, it grows stronger." The shadowed figure moved closer, its presence pressing against the air like an invisible force. And now, it is time to reclaim what was taken. The key is not yours to give away. It is mine. Alistair stepped forward, his sword drawn, though his mind raced. The darkness was returning, and with it, the weight of the world was again on his shoulders. The key may have been passed, but the war between light and dark was far from over. The world trembled as the dark being unleashed its power, distorting the reality around them. The forest around them began to wither, trees losing their leaves, the earth cracking beneath them. Alistair could feel the cold embrace of the darkness wrapping around him, but he refused to yield. "You will not have it," Alistair shouted, stepping forward. "The key has already chosen its keeper. It is no longer yours." The dark being's laugh echoed, cold and hollow. "Do you still not understand, Alistair? The key is not just a force. It is a part of me. It was never meant to be used by another. The one who holds it will be consumed, just as you were meant to be." Before Alistair could react, the figure moved like a shadow across the land, its form a blur of darkness and power. The air thickened, and the ground beneath him trembled. He could feel the pull of the darkness, an overwhelming force that threatened to tear him apart. But Alistair's resolve was unshakable. He would protect the world, even if it meant sacrificing everything. "You may be darkness, but I am the light that stands against you," Alistair shouted, his sword glowing with the power of the ancient key. The dark being faltered for a moment, sensing the surge of light. It was brief but powerful. The key's true power was not in the wielder but in the balance it created. As long as Alistair stood, the light would resist. "You are strong, Alistair," the dark being hissed. "But it is not enough. The balance will fall." The figure lunged forward, and Alistair met it with all his strength. The battle between light and dark raged around them, a violent clash of opposing forces. The earth cracked, the sky burned with the light of their conflict, and time itself seemed to stretch and twist. As the battle reached its peak, Alistair felt the energy of the key surge through him. But this time, it was different. The key's power no longer flowed solely from him. It flowed from the world itself, from the balance he had protected. The Keeper of Light had warned him that this day would come. The key was a force of balance, and it could not be controlled by one person alone. Alistair realized that he had to make the ultimate choice to allow the key's power to fully awaken, to give it the strength to protect the world, or to let it fall into darkness once again. With a final, decisive breath, Alistair made his choice. He thrust his sword into the ground, and the key shone with a brilliant light. A wave of energy rippled out from him, pushing back the dark figure and shattering the twisted forces that had bound the world in shadow. The light surged forth, not from Alistair, but from the world itself. The earth began to heal, the trees began to grow, and the sky cleared as the darkness was pushed back, retreating into the depths from which it had come. But Alistair knew that this peace would not last forever. The battle between light and dark was eternal, a cycle that would continue for as long as the world existed. Yet, for now, the world was safe. The dark figure vanished, its presence dissolving into the ether. As the dawn broke, Alistair stood at the edge of the forest, watching as the sun's rays bathed the world in warm light. The battle was over for now. He had protected the key, passed it on, and fulfilled his role. The woman, the new keeper, was out there, fulfilling her purpose, and Alistair knew that the world was in good hands. The balance was restored. Alistair took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the journey lift from his shoulders. He had done his part. Now, it was time for him to walk away from the path of darkness and light and embrace whatever new journey awaited him. The key had found its true home, and its power would continue to guide the world toward balance. That's the end of today's story. See you.